welcome to the table. I'm your host, Teen Wolf, and today we are going to be doing a draft guide for heavy hitters. What cards you need to be looking out for, what you should be doing as you draft, and just some good generic cards. So, with all that aside, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It's completely free. You won't regret it, and let's get into the video. So, before even getting to your pre-release day with your buds, hanging out, doing some pre-release stuff, you want to get a general idea of what the set is about. You want to look at the set and look at some of the heroes. What do these heroes do? What are their main themes? Like, what cards should I be looking for? That kind of stuff. Get an idea of what the set's about. But if you haven't done that, don't worry. That's what this video is for. When getting to pre-release, something that I would recommend that you do is separate the cards that you open into piles. So when you're opening your cards, you want to separate the cards by their class. All the brutes in one pile, all the guardians in another, warriors in another, and then generics in another. And then those four piles established, you want to separate them into different colored piles. All your red cards in one pile, all your yellows in another, all your blues in another. So at this point, you should have 12 piles. And then once you have all of those piles, you want to separate them into two different piles. Your attacks and your non-attacks. Now, I get that there's more than just those two types, but that's what matters the most, because you want to have 50+% of your deck be cards that you actively want to be attacking with, or in the Warriors case, cards that you want to use to buff up your weapons. And you want to have 25, usually, +% of your deck be cards that you pitch. But if you're something like a Guardian, well, then you want to have more than that. So, statistically, you should have 2 out of every 4 cards in your hand be cards that you actively want to be using to buff up your attacks if you're Warriors, or attack with if you're not. And you want to have 1 in every 4 cards in your hand be cards you want to be pitching to the bottom of your deck. Now, with that aside, you should have 24 piles, which very separated, and it can give you a very good idea of what you have, what you should be looking out for. Now, in Warriors case, I probably don't think you need to separate them into attacks and non-attacks, so 4 less piles, so 20 piles. There you go. But so, when doing that, you also want to be looking out for like 2 to 3 heroes that you want to be playing, that you would like to play. So like if you really want to play Kyle, but if the cards don't really work, you also want to play Betsy. Okay, then you can go play Betsy. But if Betsy doesn't work, oh, you really want to play Olympia, then you can go play Olympia, and you got cards for that. But anyways, here are the heroes in order of what I think is like the easiest to draft, and it's probably going to be the best, or the worst to draft, to the heroes just gonna be the easiest. You should draft it. It's probably gonna be the best because the ability just works the best and it's the easiest to pull off. So at the very back, we got Victor, because he just cares about way too much. You gotta have way too much. There's way too much setup. He's a good hero when you got all the cards, but when you don't, he's not good, very good. Same thing is true of Reinhardt. He's in 5th, and then after that, Olympia, 3rd's Kasai. They're very similar heroes. I'm just gonna say that now. When in the draft environment, they're going to be playing most of the same cards. Kasai is going to care a little bit more about drawing cards to reduce the cost of her weapons. But what's his name is going to be doing Olympia, he's going to care a lot more about wagering than drawing. But for the most part, they're basically going to be drawing all the same cards. Maybe just a few more copies than others, but still. And then in 2nd, we got Betsy, which is the overpower master, and she is very good because of evasion. And then there's Kyle, because Kyle's good. And those are the heroes that you're going to kind of be wanting to look out for. And when you're like drafting any of those heroes, this is just one more tip. If you have cards that are going to work really well for a hero, and you pull an equipment that works really, really well with that hero, like the specialization element is a must-have, you put it off to the side and you're like, I'm playing this hero, and most likely this is going in it. You also want to separate like your weapons and your equipment, obviously, from the rest of your stuff. You don't want to have that in the same pile, so 22 piles. But anyways, getting past that, we have key cards to be looking out for, and equipment and that kind of stuff. So we're going to start off talking about Kyle. Kyle, you can only have one one-handed weapon or an offhand. In this case, you can only have one one-handed weapon. And I would recommend that being Ball Breaker, because it's a 2 for 4 if you discard a card. Otherwise, it's a 2 for 3, which is pretty good. And whenever all your attack actions outside of the combat chain have +1 power. So if you discard a 5-cost attack, for example, it's actually going to be a 6, which is very good because you can run more 5s instead of not running more 5s, whatever. And whenever you discard a card with 6 or more, the first time during each of your action phases, I believe is how that's worded, you get to create a might token, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you attack with a 5 attack or a 6 powered attack, that normally, like, it gets the buff, but it doesn't normally, the might kind of gives it that buff. Anyways, then we have the equipment that you want to be looking out for. So we got Knucklehead, which, my god, is this good. It's a 2-block with temper, so you can block with it for 2 once, and if you want to, if you don't really need its effect, you can block with it for 1 another time and then it blows up. But if you're really behind the game and you really need to get back into it, you can destroy it, roll a 6-sided die, whatever the result is, that becomes your hero's intellect until the end turn, so you roll a 5. You now draw 5 cards at the end turn, instead of 4. It's very risky, but that's why you normally just use the block for it. And in Flat Trackers, it's a 1-block with Blade Break, and you can destroy it to create an agility token, which is pretty good, because at the start of your turn you can destroy said agility token to give your next attack go again. And then some key cards to be looking out for, Deathmatch Arena. Jokes aside, Cast Bones. If you have it, I would run it, because Cast Bones, you reveal the top 6 for each 6-powered attack you create a might token, which is the start of your turn. I didn't mention this before. Blow it up, create, the attack gets +1. If you reveal all of those 6 cards that you revealed, if they all have 6 or more power, you also get to create a might token. So at the start of your next turn, your next attack gets +6 power and go again. Pretty good. Pretty good. And then, besides that, basically anything that says draw a card, then discard a card at random, because Kaya really wants to go wide, and those cards make it very easy to do that. Cards like Wild Ride, you don't really go down any cards in hand. You play, you pitch a card for it, you draw, discard, you don't go down any cards when you discard. And Wild Ride can get go again, which is really good. And red and yellow, you can run the 6 and the 5, which very good. Bear Fangs can get +2. Not go again, but +2, still pretty good. Smashback Alehorn, this is also very good in Rhinar. It pitches for 3, blocks for 2, costs 0, and it is a non-attack action, which ain't great, but it could create a might and an agility, which going wide in Kaio is very good, and another really good non-attack that is in your blue is very good to have and see. But anyways, besides that, you're going to be basically running every single color. You want to have 7 cards at least that you want to be actively pitching, and pretty much everything else be 5+ powered attacks. Have as much of your deck as humanly possible be 5+ powered attacks, which seems hard, but maybe it is a little bit harder in draft, but I don't really think it is. You'd be surprised how easy it is. But anyways, like I already said, you want to prioritize going wide, not tall, and making as many agility tokens as possible to where you can go wider more easily. And that's it. So then getting into the next hero, we got Betsy, which whenever you wager, you can pay 2 resources and give that attack that wagers +1 and overpower. And how wager works, you wager an attack, you wager tokens usually. If that attack hits, you get to create said tokens or whatever you wager. If you don't hit, your opponent gets to create whatever you wager. So there you go. And then some key equipment / weapons. Good Time Chapeau. It's a multi-use equipment, which I didn't realize the first time I read it, and when I talked about it a week ago, which is very good because it's a 2-block with temper. So once again, you can block with it for 2 once, and you can block with it for 1 a second time if you really need it. But as an action of Go Again, you can destroy a gold and not this to give your next attack the ability to wager a might and a vigor, which You get the wager right away, you don't have to use any of your other cards, and then you can swing that attack, get the buff and overpower with Betsy's ability, and then you basically guarantee to get the tokens, which is very, very good. Especially considering another key equipment in this deck is Stand Ground, which is a 0 block with Temper that gets +1 defense if you control a Might, and +1 if you control a Vigor, +1 defense. So it can block for 2 with Temper once, and then for 1 again if you still have the tokens, which is very good. And then some key cards, Bet Big if you can. It is a Majestic. If you don't have it, I don't think I said this before, but Cast Bones, it is a Majestic. If you don't have it, it's whatever. If you do, great. But Bet Big, you don't have to have it. It can wager a gold and a Might and a Vigor, and it's a 4 for 8. I recall that blocks for 3. Very good. But if you don't have it, it's not the end of the world. And then any of the wager auras like Big Bop and Hold'em, I think is the other one. No, it's not. But basically, if it's the red, it gives that your next attack +5 power and the ability to wager one of the 2 respective tokens, either Might or Vigor. Any wager attack / non-attack, like Wage Might, Wage Vigor, Wage Gold, all very good. Money Where Your Mouth Is, also very good. And colors, 22-8 split, red being prioritized over blue, but you still want to have like that kind of slightly more than the average, like 25%, but yeah, 8 blues is what you want to have. But then you want to play auras, the key strategy of the deck. And oh, by the way, you can run whatever weapon you want. It honestly doesn't really matter. The weapons in the set aren't really good. If you have a Nothos, great. If you don't, just a reminder, it's not the end of the world. But so the key strategy of the deck is when you're not playing defensive, because you're a Guardian, you can play super defensive, you can wait, bide your time, play an aura, continue to play defensive next turn, play one of the attacks, many attacks in a set that if it has power greater than its base, it gets this effect of either destroying a card in arsenal, or making the opponent discard a card, or getting overpowered, and you don't have to waste the resources on Betsy's ability. But if you don't do that, then just play one of the wage cards and get a big attack or effect out of that. So that's kind of like what Betsy does, just big smash and play defensive when you're not. Very good. And then you can also run some clash cards if you want to, like Test Strength, I guess would be pretty good in that deck, but yeah, whatever. Then getting into Kasai / Olympia, like I said, they're running most of the same cards. Kasai, if you would draw a card during your turn, it makes your weapon attacks cost 1 less for the turn, which is very good. And as a once per turn action with Go Again, you can banish 2 reds and 2 yellows from your graveyard to give the effect of, if a weapon would hit this turn, you get to create a gold token, which you can pitch 2 resources to then draw a card, so making your sword attacks cost less, which is very good. And then some key equipment / weapons that you want to be running. Centauri Saber, which over Blaze Runner, whatever the other card's called. It's the classic one-handed weapon, costs 1, attack for 2. If it's blocked by an attack action, it gets +1 power. The other one can get Go Again. You can do like a little kind of hybrid thing where you run the thing with Go Again and the Centauri Saber. You can do that. I don't really think you have to. I think prioritizing getting a buff over Go Again, because there's so much warrior attacks now that can get Go Again. Maybe in draft, if you have the thing that can get Go Again, I would possibly consider running one of those and a Centauri Saber. But for the most part, if you don't have the one-handed weapon that can get Go Again, if it's blocked by an attack action, just run 2 Centauri Sabers, and it's not really that big of a deal. But then Hood of Red Sand is very good in this deck because it's a 1 block with Battle Worn, and it's kind of like a one-time use of Kasai's ability. You can pay a resource, which is unfortunate, but as an attack reaction, you can banish a red and a yellow from your graveyard, and then give your next attack the ability to, or give the current attack the ability, if it hits, you get to draw a card. So you don't have to waste any time with the gold, and it automatically makes your last weapon attack of the turn cost nothing, which is pretty good. And then Flat Trackers, once again, very good in the deck. And then some key cards, Shift the Tide of Battle. If the current attack, it's a 0 cost, pitches for 2 attack reaction, by the way. If the current attack that's getting the whatever has greater power than its base, that attack gets go again, and if this attack hits, you create an agility, so it basically gives your first attack on the next turn go again. Very good. It is a majestic, but if you have it, it's great. Then Blade Flurry, it gives the current attack, once again, it's a 0 cost, pitches for 1 this time instead of 2, attack reaction, and it gives the current attack +2, gives your next attack +2 as well, which is very busted. But if you pull either of these and you're planning on running one of the warriors, run these cards. They're majestics, you're not guaranteed to get them, but they're very good in the decks. But then, cut the deck, you basically can draw a card and then put a card from your hand or arsenal on the bottom, which is very good, and it's a 1 cost attack reaction, but it only gets the effect of you drawing and then putting a card from your hand or arsenal on the bottom if the current attack is being blocked by an attack action. I recall, maybe it's not for this one, but I know it is for the other one, which is Engage Swiftblade. It is not an attack reaction, it is just an action, but it gives the ability to give your next attack +3, like the cut the deck, but if this if that attack is blocked by an attack action, it gets +3, or it gets go again, which is very, very good. And then key colors, red and yellow, you want to make it way more of like a 50-50 split, not just like the 22-7 split or 23-7 split. I'd have it maybe not 15-15, but like 18 reds, 12 yellows. Basically, if you have like 10 really, really playable yellows that you really want to run in your deck, just shove them all in the deck, and you got some like 20 red cards. Maybe they're not all great, but just put them all in too. And then, yeah. So, basically what you want to do, this is kind of like the strategy for Olympia and Kasai, just change out a couple of words. Give your first weapon attack go again, and then in Kasai's case, you want to draw cards to make your weapon attacks cost 1 less, and then go smash. But in Olympia's case, you want to wager instead. So, speaking of which, getting into Olympia, the reason why I've been talking so much about Olympia while I'm talking about Kasai is they're pretty much the same for the most part. It's just, instead of Kasai having her ability, Olympia has the ability of whenever a weapon wins its first wager, you get to make a gold. Or whenever an attack, I think. But the key equipment / weapons are mostly the same. Centauri Saber, Flat Trackers. Prize Gallia is a 2-block with temper that's really good in this deck. As an attack reaction, you can pay a resource, give target weapon the ability to wager a gold with the opponent, which is very good. But most of the same key cards, Shift the Tide of Battle, Blade Flurry, you pretty much are going to be running like a lot of the cards that were key in Kasai, but instead of the cards that weren't really key in Kasai and were just kind of like good, they're going to be key in this deck. The wager cards. Cards like Take the Upper Hand. If you've wagered, the attack gets +3. Hold 'em. Edge Ahead, Money Where Your Mouth Is. And then another key majestic that is in this deck, if you have it, run it. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. Up the Ante, it costs X and you can choose X +1. You can wager an agility, gold, vigor, and then the attack gets +Y power, where Y is the amount of times you've wagered this turn. But yeah, it's mostly the same stuff, but instead of it being prioritizing draw, it's prioritizing wager, and instead of it being yellows, it's blues. And it's like a 23-7 split, whereas with Kasai, it's more like a 50-50 split. Not exactly, but way closer. And then, like I said, strategies are pretty much the same, just switch out prioritizing draw with wager. And then that's the only difference, really. So then there's Reinar, which says, whenever you discard a card with 6 or more power during your action phase, you get to intimidate your opponent, which they banish a card from their hand face down and until the end of turn, and it goes back to their hand at the end of turn. Which is pretty good. It can really mess with your opponents when you're attacking them. And that's kind of what the deck wants to do. Some key equipment / weapons. You want to have Mandible Claw, and really hoping you have Ball Breaker, because Ball Breaker is really good in this deck when you're not having your big, like, swing of massive stuff turns. You want to be doing Mandible Claw, getting Go Again, if you discard a card to 6 or more for 3, 2 for 3, and come in with the Ball Breaker for 4 damage, costing 2, so you pitch 4 resources total, and then come in for 7 damage with your weapons. Very powerful. And then Monstrous Veil is a key equipment in this deck. It's a 1-block with Battle Worn. As an action, you can draw a card, then discard a card at random. So immediately start off the Intimidate Machine on your big combo turns, and then have Flat Trackers to give use on the prior turn, and then give your first attack of your big combo turn and go again. But some key cards, Beat Chest being, in my opinion, way better in this deck than it is in Kyle. It's still very good in Kyle, but I feel like it's slightly better in Rhinar because you don't have to discard as much. But Cast Bones is very good in this deck. Show No Mercy, a 3-powered 6 attack, can get +3 if the opponent has no cards in hand. And when it attacks, they intimidate them. Once again, both Majestics. If you have them, play them. If you don't, not the end of the world. But so 3 cost attacks are amazing in this deck. Beast Mode, it's a 3 for 8 if you intimidate, otherwise it's 6, which is not the end of the world. Assault and Battery, 3 for 7. If you beat Chest's turn, you get to create a Might or Agility, and this attack has Beat Chest. And then Pound Town, same thing, but instead of creating an Agility, you create a Might. And then Bonebreaker Bellow is also very good in this deck. You basically give the attack +3 if it's red, if this is the red one. And if you beat Chest, it gets an additional +2, so +5 total. If it's the blue, which I would also run, it gets +1. If you beat Chest, it gets +3. So very good in Rhinar, and the reason why you can do the whole like Mandible into Ball Breaker combo, you start off with the Bonebreaker Bellow. But so, key colors, red, blue, like a 22-8 split. You want slightly more blues in this deck than you would in Kyle. But the key strategy, instead of going wide like you would in Kyle, you want to go tall. You want to bide your time, set up your arsenal really well with like one of your big 3 attacks, and then you want to play, what are the words? You want to use your Flat Tracker, like I said, and then before your combo turn, and then you want to use the Monstrous Veil to start off your turn, get an Intimidate out of your opponent right away, come in with a big attack with Go Again thanks to the Flat Trackers, and then come in with another attack, intimidate the last card out of your opponent's hand, and then hopefully deal massive amounts of damage. And until then, you just kind of do the weapon stuff. You throw like one big 3 cost attack, or you just play a little bit more defensive, play a little bit of a longer game than Kyle. And the last hero, we got Victor. I want to make this quick. Whenever you would make a gold off an effect, you get to draw a card, and you can sack a gold to redo a clash. When you clash, both heroes reveal the top card of their deck. Whichever hero has the highest powered attack wins the clash, and whatever effects come out of said clash. So some key equipment / weapons. Miller Grindstone, which is 3 for 4. And if it hits, you get the clash. If you win the clash, you destroy the top card of their deck, of the opposing hero's deck. If you lose the clash, this weapon gets a -1 power counter on it, so it comes in for 3 instead of 4, which is way less threatening. And there's Stonewall Impasse, which is kind of like a stone or a steel blade buckler, sort of. It's a 1-block with temper. And when you defend with it, you clash. If you win the clash, this gets +1 defense until the end of turn, so it doesn't die to the whole blocking thing. But so, Golden Glare is also really good. It's a 2-block blade break, and if you defend with 2 or more yellows, you also get to create a gold, which is very good. And then Stand Ground is also, once again, very good in this deck because you're going to be making a lot of tokens, usually off of like your clashes, winning said clashes. And based on like if you have wages and vigors, the Stand Ground can get additional toughness. But some key cards, Golden Sun, it is a Majestic. It costs 4, it attacks for 8, right? Nope, sorry, for 7. And if you win a wager when attacking with this, or if you reveal this and win a clash with it, you get to create a gold. And when you attack with it, you can sack said gold to give this attack +3 and overpower. But then going down a little bit lower in rarity, we have Thunk, which is a 5 for 8. If you reveal and win this off of a clash, you get to create a Might. Wallop, same thing, but it's a 4 for 7, and you create a Vigor, not an Agility. And then all of the Clash cards, Clash of Might, Clash of Vigor, and then, which are 2 for 6s, by the way. All the tests, the Test of Might, Test of Vigor, Test of Strength, which are all block cards that block for 4, and whenever you win their respective clash, you get to create one of the 3 tokens listed, either a Might, a Vigor, or Gold. And then there's Performance Bonus, which is another generic in this deck, which it's a 0 for 3, and if it hits, you get to create a Gold, which is very good. And if it's played from the arsenal, it gets Go again, which is also very good. So then the colors, red and yellow, if you have the Golden Glare, and it's kind of like a 20 to 10 split, so you can draw more yellows when you need it. And then if you're not running the Golden Glare, if you don't have the Golden Glare, then it's like a 22-8 split. And then the whole strategy of the deck is to go big and smash, but when you're not, you just fatigue the opponent to death. And then, getting into the generic staples that are good in pretty much every deck, pay them up, punishes the opponent for gold, you can either gain control of it or deal a damage to them if they don't have it. Ripple Away, basically you discard it if an opponent would make a token, they make that many -1, which is very good. Wage gold again, 3 for 7, you wage a gold. And then performance bonus, also very good. Starting stake, starting stake is also very good. Could be very good in Kasai, honestly. Because if you control no golds, you get to make a gold, and it costs 0. I don't believe it has Go again, and it only blocks for 2, but it is yellow, so there you go. And then Test of Strength again. But a lot of the generics in the set are very good. Some are better than others. Some that I didn't list might be really good in certain heroes, like possibly, what's-his-face? Victor. But with all that aside, thanks for watching, everybody. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It's completely free. You won't regret it. And hope that you enjoyed this draft guide. Have a great pre-release weekend with heavy hitters. And see you next time, everybody. Enjoy.